for expressions of interest for contractors to supply, provide, and manage quarantine isolation camps throughout every province and every territory in Canada. These quarantine isolation camps, however, are not limited to people with COVID, but provide a wide latitude for many people to be detained. Surely this government is aware of the intentions to build these isolation camps from coast to coast. And my question to the Premier is, how many of these camps will be built? And how many people does this government expect to detain?
Rural Manitoba, standing in a place at a location you probably wouldn't even notice if you weren't looking for it. This is a COVID camp, one of the ones that the CBC doesn't want you to believe exists. In fact, article after article coming out of the CBC and every other mainstream media site, but particularly the CBC, who is running damage control for Justin Trudeau, they say that no sites like this, now they're not real, they don't exist.
Here's the RFP, and in the RFP it uses clear language to express that these camps can be used for a broad spectrum of people, not limited to travelers. Indeed, it doesn't even mention international travelers. It's just a broad latitude of people. And I'll send over the copy of the RFP after. So your government must be in negotiations and aware of these plans to potentially detain and isolate citizens and residents of our country, in our province. So, Speaker, to the Premier, where will these camps be built? How many people will be detained? And for what reasons? For what reasons can people be
vaccine? They're going to take the mark, whether it's an RFID chip, whether it's the lighting from the Lucifer chemical inside of the bloodstream, whether it's an ID, something, whether it's biometrics with the eye, which represents the forehead, or the right hand being scanned. And it'll say on the screen, this woman was not vaccinated. And you ever go to use your card at the market and something goes wrong and the machine goes, and the lady looks at you and says, your card wasn't accepted. You can't get your groceries then, right? What do you think is gonna happen to people who do not take this DNA altering abomination and they try to go buy carrots and apples? They're going to be rejected, and more than likely someone's on the way to pick them up, to bring them to a camp, to re-educate them or kill them. Some of you think it's a game. We'll see very shortly, won't we?
Finding this executive order, which is Executive Order 13295 of April 4th, 2003, written and passed by Republican President George Bush. Now I'm going to read to you what it says. Revised list of quarantinable communicable diseases by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Section 361B of the Public Health Service Act 42 U.S.C. 264B, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, based upon the recommendation of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the Secretary, in consultation with the Surgeon General, and for the purpose of specifying certain communicable diseases for regulations providing for, listen to this, the apprehension, detention, and conditional release of individuals to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of suspected communicable diseases. The following communicable diseases are hereby specified pursuant to Section 361B of the Public Health Service Act. So it's telling you that they could apprehend you, detain you, and release you under conditional terms. Now the diseases are cholera, diphtheria, infectious tuberculosis, plague, smallpox, fever, etc. Now let's read Section B. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, which is a disease associated with fever and signs and symptoms of pneumonia and other respiratory illness, is transmitted from person to person predominantly by the aerosolized or droplet route, and is spread in the population would have severe public health consequences. And in this pandemic, what virus is causing this pandemic? SARS-CoV-2. So this law applies to this virus that we're supposedly going through, right? Now, mind you, they could apprehend you, quarantine you, and they could release you on their own conditional terms, which could be what? A vaccine, right? A vaccine, right?